Let's talk about a message from the MoveMaker blog called Diagnosis Zoomer. And this one is all about the realization that when we're saying we don't have enough time, that maybe it's not actually time. Maybe it's that we don't have enough capacity. And I want to talk about why that matters more than ever. And I'll share a little bit from my family experience with you. So just to give a little perspective, I was diagnosed with ADHD as an adult. Now my son was diagnosed when he was 6, quite young. And not long ago, I was having breakfast with a family member, and she is decades into life, further than either of us, obviously, and she has the same diagnosis. So we're talking 3 different generations, somewhat similar brain wiring, but different daily structures. We live very different day to day. And even my son, he's in school, I'm at work, etc., etc. And somewhere in that conversation, a question popped into my head, and that is how much of what we call struggle is actually maybe not the person struggling, because that's what this family member was saying. I'm struggling, I need to get organized, yada, yada. How much of what we call struggle is actually coming from the environment and not even the person? Because there's this lie that we keep passing down unintentionally. I don't think it's on purpose, but every generation thinks that they are busy. And that is totally valid. But this world that we're living in, this is different. We're not just living in a culture of productivity anymore. Now we're living in a culture of urgency. So it's not just efficiency, it's urgency. Everything is faster and sharper and louder and needs to be taken care of immediately. Messages demand instant replies. If we don't hear back from somebody within even the hour, let's say, we get irritated. Content is designed to hook people immediately. And then once you hook them, it's designed to keep them scrolling and repeating the process. I work in marketing. I do this for a living. And success even is measured in output and visibility and speed. And quietly, underneath it all, there's this message that I hear that's saying, look, if you're not doing something, then you're wasting time. Because even rest has become performative. Like, have you seen the rings that people wear when they sleep to track their sleep and, how restful was it, and try and increase those scores? Hobbies are not just hobbies anymore. Everything's monetized. Everything's on Etsy. Even downtime gets optimized, and I am very guilty of this. Okay, it's Sunday afternoon, we've got 2 hours. How many parks can we hit? And is grandma's house on the way? Like, we're gonna squeeze it all in. So when I sit on the couch at night with my kids, doing what should objectively, I think, count as just living life, there's this voice in my head, in the back of my head, that's saying you could be doing more. And that sucks. It super sucks. And it steals some of that joy from that moment, that very moment. And so I think this is the part that we're getting wrong, because this kind of reframe is changing things for me. It's not so much that I don't have enough time. It's that I don't always have the capacity. Those are not the same thing, because we all get 24 hours, but we do not all get the same nervous system bandwidth or mental energy or emotional reserves in our body. And for those of us with ADHD, capacity isn't just limited, it's variable. So some days I can move mountains, or it feels like it. And then on other days, it seems like, just answering a text message from someone is the equivalent of lifting a mountain. And yet, hustle culture doesn't care about capacity. It only tracks time. So I think many others have internalized this belief of if I'm not using every available hour productively, then I'm falling behind. But here's the thing, what if that hour, that 1 hour on the couch, what if it wasn't wasted? What if it was actually the only reason that the rest of your day even worked? There's this quote, I've heard it a few times, and I think it's from John Lennon, but it's one of those that's been said so many times that you don't really know for sure. But the quote is this, that time you enjoy wasting was not wasted. I think that's beautiful, because if you're enjoying doing something, it has purpose, and something with purpose is not wasting time. So somewhere along the way, we stopped believing that. And I saw this play out in real time with my son recently. He's in first grade, which means he's already living in a world of timed testing, which honestly just makes me, it makes my stomach turn. And the thing is, he gets it. Like, he understands the material, he can solve the problems, but his focus and processing speed is a little slower than some of his peers. And so when I asked his teacher a question that I think a lot of parents are quietly wondering, I asked her, is he missing too much of the good stuff, like the music and the gym and art, just to finish his work that he didn't complete in time during class, during that identified block of time for that activity? And her answer kind of stopped me in a good way. She said that, well, some kids can be motivated by, and she didn't use this word, but they're motivated by the threat of missing something fun, like, okay, so-and-so finished this, or you're going to miss recess. Like, for several kids, that's a big enough carrot to dangle that they're like, oh, I better get my poop in a group, and I don't want to miss recess. I'm working on that fort out there. But that approach doesn't really work for him, for my son. And it's not because he doesn't care, but because, and this is what she said, I don't think he can go faster. So let that land, because not distracted, not unmotivated, but can't. His brain is processing at the speed it processes. So instead of forcing him to match the clock, we've been able to adjust the expectation a bit. So for example, if he can prove on a worksheet that he understands the concept after solving 2 problems, then he doesn't necessarily have to do 5 more. So there's the same standard for comprehension, but a slightly different path to get there. And just like that, the goal for him shifted from finish fast to understand this concept. And I actually had a meeting with some folks at his school this morning, and I was so thrilled, because so often I think kids that have any kind of label, ADD, ADHD, whatever, any label, and automatically we look at that child or that person and say, well, what, and this is even from a positive lens, what can we do to help that person do better? Instead of saying, what can I do to help that person do better? And in this meeting this morning, I was thrilled, because what I heard over and over again, bless everybody at his school, was not what does he need to change? It was, what can we adjust? What can we, tinker with? What can we modify so that it will work for him? And it wasn't even just the adults. It was, we talked a bit about how it can be frustrating, and it's frustrating for anybody when they feel like they can't get the words out that they want to say. But sometimes he really thinks through things before he speaks. And one of the women in the room this morning, she's like, that's actually a gift. Sometimes you can't even teach that. And I'm like, I know, thank you. And the frustration though is that when he does that, when he's taking his time on occasion, and it's not all the time, but on occasion, his friends will get frustrated because they're anxious, or they see the other line is moving and he hasn't taken that step forward yet. And so then there's that tension between them because they are living in that same go 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 world and trying to hit those same markers. But one of the adults in the room said, well, I think that's a great opportunity to talk to the group on a regular basis, not a one-time sit down, hey guys, do this more, but to really reinforce in that environment with all of the children that it's okay to pause and think, especially before you speak. And I just kind of let out like a deep sigh of relief because that is how things change on a whole. We're not going to expect other people to change everything about what they do, but if we can all grow together, that would be amazing. That would be so amazing. So later on, when I was having breakfast with that family member, this is what she said. She said, I just need to get more organized. That would help me so much. And I get it, because organization, it feels like the fix. Like color-coded calendars and better systems and a new planner with fresh highlighters. But as we kept talking, it became very clear that they weren't struggling because they lacked organization. They were actually trying a whole lot of different things, and they were struggling because they were over capacity. They were just doing too much. And yet the default assumption across generations is still, if I were just more disciplined or more structured or more organized, then I would be fine. But I'm here to argue, what if organization isn't the solution? Is it valuable? Of course it is. But what if it's just more socially acceptable to say, I need to get organized, than it is to say, I'm overwhelmed and I don't know how to say that out loud? Because you can organize your calendar all you want, friends, but if your brain is already maxed out, you are just organizing your exhaustion. Okay, so this is something I've had to unlearn in my own professional life, because I shifted many years ago from working in corporate world to consulting and contract work, and I struggled with charging an hourly rate. Because here's the reality: if I am focused and the work aligns with how my brain operates and my interests, I can move fast, like really fast, and it's still very high quality and efficient and just locked in. And I can sometimes complete something in truly a fraction of the time it might take someone else. But on other days, when my capacity is lower, or the task requires a different type of energy, it might take me longer. And yet, the end result, my client still gets exactly what they asked for. So why are we so obsessed with how long something takes instead of how well it's done? Like, time-based pricing assumes consistency. But ADHD brains, they don't operate on consistency. They operate on capacity and alignment and variability, like we talked about, which is why I stand so firmly behind retainers and project-based work, because the value isn't in the hours, it's in the outcome. Now, here's the part that I really can't stop thinking about. My brain, my son's brain, my relative's brain, same diagnosis, different eras. Yeah, the expectations placed on our brains have been pretty wildly different, honestly. My relative grew up without constant digital stimulation, and I came of age alongside the rise of the internet. And now my son is growing up in a world of instant everything. So what does ADHD look like in a commercial world that never stops rewarding distraction? Honestly, from a marketing perspective, that feels so true. What does focus even mean when everything that we do these days is engineered to break it? We frame ADHD as an attention problem, but what if it's also a capacity regulation problem in an environment that never allows you to build in recovery, right? And this is where it gets a little heavy, because this pressure is compounding on our kids. Kids today aren't just navigating school and friendships. They are navigating timed expectations that do not match every brain. They're dealing with constant stimulation, social comparison at scale, infinite entertainment options, and zero built-in boredom. And boredom, the thing we used to avoid, is actually where so much regulation and creativity and resilience is built. We have literally removed the pause in society. And then we wonder why their systems feel overloaded. And then there's this guilt of doing nothing. I used to think my hardest days were the ones where I couldn't get everything done. But now I think that they're the days where I didn't allow myself to stop. Because the truth is that rest should not be a reward for productivity. It is a requirement for capacity. So that hour on the couch, it is regulation. It is connection with those sitting there with you. It is recovery. It's the thing that makes tomorrow possible. But if you've been conditioned to equate worth with output, that hour feels like failure. But what if it's not you? What if you're not bad at managing time? What if you're actually very aware, like on a body level, of your limits? What if your lack of discipline is actually just your nervous system saying like, hey friend, this is enough for today. Peace out. We're done. We are clocking out. And what if the real skill isn't squeezing more into your day, but recognizing when you've already done enough? That's a different kind of awareness. And I don't question my ADHD diagnosis, but I do question the world it exists in, because I can't help but wonder if we did live in a slower, a less reactive, less instant gratification driven culture, how different might this feel? Would we still call it a deficit? Or would we call it sensitivity or awareness or a different rhythm, you know? And at MoveMaker, we talk a lot about doing things with intention, not just more and not just faster, but in a way that actually aligns with how your brain and your body work. So maybe the goal isn't to fix your organizational habits or your time management. Maybe it's to honor your capacity and to build in real, actual time for recovery. And definitely stop outsourcing your worth to productivity, because it's very possible, I believe, that the most productive thing you did today was sit on the couch and be there. Because in a world that never, ever, ever stops moving, choosing, because it is a choice, choosing to pause, that could be the most powerful move you make.